right, guys, we're here tonight with your four-time champ, iTweety. All right, let's start the interview with the first and easy question. Why did you decide to play Dragon tonight?
Okay. Um, that is actually a pretty simple question. I think Drag Rulers is the best deck by far for the new set. So that's why I decided to play Dragon Rulers.
Okie doke. Did you prefer the consistency of Mythic Ruler over how threatening Lightsworn Ruler can be?
Well, I think that Lightsworn Ruler is a terrible deck. In my opinion, you should never resolve the cards the way they do because, well, I guess it's more consistent now, but in theory, that deck shouldn't be consistent at all because you're milling and the deck is focused on milling. So like you should mill like cards that you want to see the most of. Like you should mill your recharges and stuff that you want to see the most, and you should draw the cards that you don't want to see the most because you're milling cards, and like you're gonna mill cards that you have more of in your deck. So I think Mythic Ruler is the better version of the deck too, anyways, and it's more consistent. So yeah.
I've always had that problem with Lightsworn, and it's the problem with the discussion about any variant of Lightsworn, whether it's pure Lightsworn or a hybrid. It's like you're battling the people who enjoy winning by not actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus the common sense of what's happening in the games.
Yeah.
All right, but did you feel like the new draw rule affected this deck at all?
Let's see. Yeah, I would say okay. I'm gonna say yes or no because obviously the sixth card is like super important in like most matchups already, but Mythic Ruler always wants to go first no matter what because you want to draw into a soul charge play. Like that's like your goal if you go first. Like you want to make a field where either it's a lock so they can't kill you or it's like a lock where like you make massive advantage the next turn. Like you always want to go like a Zur, and then you always want to go a big dragon, like a big synchro dragon or something, and a Zur, because if you make that, then the Zur protects protects all your other dragons that were summoned previously to that guy, and then like you just like derp on your opponent next turn with you just summon massive dragons and stuff, and he always brings back a dragon. Like he can always bring back a Blue Eyes or always bring back a Flammable Guard. So like you can just make a play according to what you will be bringing back, and I think that that's the reason.
And there's also the potential like it's not like a deck that doesn't have the ability to generate a +1 first turn or going first.
Yeah. Plus, if you go second, then it's really hard to like make a play stick, and you need your plays to stick when you play this deck. And if you go second, then you have to worry about if they're playing a deck that wants to go first too. Because if you go first, then you just make your play and you set up your play according to like whatever you want to do the next turn, and then they have to deal with your back row and your monsters or whatever because you're generating advantage, and they have to deal with that. But if you go second, then you have to worry about that yourself because then you have to worry about like okay, if they're playing Hat, then they have bottomless Chapo because they're Summon Marmillo, and then now you have a dragon that you know is going to get banished or a monster that's not going to have the summon go through. So it's like so bad to go second in my opinion when you play the deck.
Okay. With dragons sometimes having trouble in the early game, why not a second card trooper or even a Curry Bandit?
Okay. Oh man, I love this question. So, okay. Curry Bandit to me is not good versus card trooper. The early game is fixed with like the max trade in because Blue Eyes is like the card you don't want to have, but you need your tuners and you only play 2 card of consonants because one tuner always gets sent with Dragon Shrine usually, like Flammagar always gets sent with Dragon Shrine, and you need your tuners because you need to summon your level 8 synchros most of the time. Like you need to have Stardust, you need to make Spark, you need to make Scrap, Dragon, Colossal Fighter, etc., etc. But card trooper versus Curry Bandit. Okay, Curry Bandit is amazing. I'm not taking away from the fact that the card is good. Like it gets you 5 cards into the deck and you get to choose a spell, and if you mill dragons or whatever, then that's like always good. It's never bad. But the thing about Curry Bandit is like, okay, Bandit can be negated. Bandit can be like stopped. Like you can break through the Bandit and now you're like frozen. Like you don't get what you wanted out of it. And then if you do resolve the bandit and you mill bad, now your field's open. Like if you summon that first turn and you go, and then like it resolves and stuff, you don't get a dragon on the field. Like you don't have a monster on the field to do anything, so that you're going to take damage. And if you already set like your skill drain stuff, and you take direct damage, and then you have to take the 1,000 for the skill drain that you're going to pay the next turn, if you need to negate a monster effect, or like et cetera, et cetera. Like it's just like, to me, that's bad. And like Trooper, you mill 3, it's 3 deep, and then you draw a card if it dies. And each turn the Trooper stays on the field is like more threatening. Like if you resolve the Trooper and you mill 3, and it doesn't really matter what it is unless it's like burial in the grave, then that Trooper is going to get advantage next turn. And 1,900 can kill monsters. Like 1,000 can't do anything. And Trooper's Earth, and Trooper makes Black Rose Dragon with debris. So Trooper like has so many more benefits than this stupid bandit that everyone wants to play in Dragon Rulers. Okay.
With double skill drain, triple soul charge, and just the general potential to have a poor early game, were you concerned about life points?
I'm always concerned about life points, because like if your opponent has an out to the skill drain that you're gonna play after you soul charge, then like it's like the worst feeling in the world, because cards like Heartland Draco and Gaga Cowboy, like they just like kind of wreck you when you like are so low. And when you have to soul charge, that's even worse. Like if you can't kill the monster on the field and you're forced to make the soul charge, then you have to think about like what dragons to bring back, and if your field can live, if they have an out to the like this that their back row or whatever that's supposed to like save you, I guess. So life points are always important. Like that's another thing about the deck. You have to make sure that you're not going to pay too many life points. You're going to play enough life points. So yeah.
Okay. How was Dragon Carnation over the tournament?
I love that card. The card is amazing. It does everything you want it to do plus more. Like Dragon Carnation makes it where you don't have to draw Burial like when you need it. Like it allows you to play rulers without needing a Burial, because you can either get the tuner, you can get a tuner back, you can get whatever you want basically back. Like I think Dragon Carnation could work where if you banish a Synchro and you Dragon Carnation, it goes back to your extra deck. So if you need Stardust again, you can get the Stardust back, and then you can make the Stardust. Or if you have a ruler and you banish it, then you can get the ruler back. If you have a tuner and you want to like, you can like use it to play a dead trade in hand, and it's chainable, so you can scrap dragon it and then pop it and then add a dragon and then summon that dragon that you added, and it does everything you want it to do basically.
Okay. With Duelist Alliance being legal this week, snicker, before release, were you afraid of Shadows, Burning Abyss, and or Yin Zhang?
I don't think I'm scared of the decks that are. I don't think I'm scared of Xing Zhang, Burning Abyss, or Shadows, or like the Battery Man 9V stuff. I'm not really like afraid of it. I'm just scared of, I guess, them making a field that I can't fight. Which I think that Dragons is the best deck, which is why I played it in the tournament, because my side deck obviously with like triple Shadow Imprisoning and double Koakime Draco, like completely is anti versus those decks. So I don't think that I was gonna have a hard time today if I had to play against those decks, which I didn't. But if I did, then I wouldn't have mattered, because I main one Draco, and I think that skill drain obviously hurts enough decks, and emptiness is gonna stop their Shadow Fusion card. So I felt like I had a good chance today, which I did.
Well, what matchups or cards were you afraid of going into the tournament?
I'm afraid of my opponent's emptiness. I'm always afraid of that card. Like if you don't have a field, then you kind of just lose unless you have Blaster, and I don't want to have Blaster to out a card on the field so I don't lose to emptiness. I'm afraid of a mid rash backed by traps. That's another thing I'm scared of, because if they stop the Blaster or the Tidal Summon, then it's like really hard if you don't have skill drain. And after that, I guess I'm just like scared of like banish traps. Like I'm scared of like floodgates mostly. That's like really what I'm scared of. So that's why I slide appropriately.
Not considering your final match? What was your hardest matchup tonight?
Um, Probably has to be against. I'm gonna say it's against Fresh, which was he was playing Hat, only because that deck can go either way. I guess. Like we're supposed to have the better matchup, but but my side is like anti anything that's not. I guess banish this, banish that, floodgate dot deck, and hands don't beat Stardust, and my deck is basically bigger than theirs, so I guess if I just push through back row, I'm not afraid of anything. But I guess that was my hardest matchup tonight because if I don't have my cards the way they are, then he just kind of like beats me down really fast with sanctums and bottomless trap holes and like traps.
Sure. All right. So thoughts on what you saw tonight? Any decks or techs that caught your eye?
I don't think there was like a deck that had any decks or techs that caught my eye, but I did get like really confused when I saw D Fisher in Mermails.
Yeah.
Duel, but it happens. I mean, I guess you can side wrong or make your side wrong, and that happens sometimes. So I'm not gonna like hold it against the guy, but I was just like completely and utterly confused. Like that match, I didn't understand, but I'm not even gonna go there.
Well, I mean, if you separate game 1 and game 2 from each other, like game 1 was a decent game to watch, especially the Mirror Force.
Yeah.
Like that was really shocking. I mean, it's probably not correct to play in Mermail, but it doesn't matter. It was still an impressive Mirror Force.
It had to be the best play. The Book of Moon and the Mirror Force have to be the best two plays. In all the matches that I played, I thought those were like the two craziest things to happen. Like the Book of Moon was like so clutch versus me, and then the Mirror Force was like even more clutch versus me. I was just like, man, this is like the salt fest right here. I am just getting wrecked. But then I drew the second emptiness, and I was like, well, how is he supposed to win now? So.
All right. Is there anything you would change about your deck, or anything you would have done differently in general?
Let me see. I think that this deck isn't the best version. I think that I think if this deck moves forward and people like, this deck is best for right now. Like right now, the format has like started over again technically because the new set changed so much in the game.
Sure.
So I think that for right now, this deck is like the best. I built it the correct way. But going forward, I think that I need to have a trap that actually outs the emptiness. Because if I don't out the emptiness, then I can't do anything for that remainder of the duel, basically. And besides Blaster Pop. And if I don't have Blaster Pop, then I lose. So I think that's probably the only goal of this deck is to have like a way to out the emptiness, which could be MST or like Phoenix Wind Blast or something. But I need to have a way to out that card. That's about it. In game 1. That's just for the game 1.
Sure. All right, well, the normal question to end here is anything else you'd like to say about your deck or your night? But you can finish this, because I'm looking at your deck list, and there's two things that are standing out to me that Fresh didn't mention in the little questionnaire, which were, when I was playing Mythic Ruler, like, I always wanted a lower monster count than seemed natural for the deck. And so, like, I got it to 18, and I was like, 18 seems legit. I would love to play 16, but that scares me a little bit. But I noticed looking at your deck that you have 16. So I want you to talk about the monster count being at 16, your decision making around that, and then also the Miracle Dig. Like I'm certain that was probably just your built-in answer versus stuff like Macrocosmos or Dimensional Fissure. But I just want to hear you talk about it.
Okay. I'll talk about another thing too. Like with all that, I'll talk about like this electric virus.
Yeah.
Cause like that's like that card's weird too. But okay, first of all, the 16 is because like you never want to draw half of the monsters in this deck. Like everyone knows that. Like this deck doesn't want to draw the monsters at all except like the tuners and the cards to help you draw more or whatever to get into like Dragon Shrine and Soul Charge. So I like wanted this deck to like literally turbo into that. and I played the Sacred Sword. So because like sometimes you draw your one of Dragon Rulers and you're just like, well, I need a card to like get these things out of my hand ASAP, like as soon as possible, obviously, and you just have to play that card to me. And I just wanted to cut as many. I wanted to cut as many bad things about the deck as possible. Like I cut a Trooper because I felt like there was only one time that you ever were going to make the Black Rose Dragon, and that was when you were in a losing position. So I was like, I don't really care about milling. I don't want to mill the cards, even though like milling isn't bad for this deck. Like it's like really, it really doesn't matter. Like you always get deeper. But I wanted to see more cards. I wanted to like see more cards in my hand that I thought could have been playable. Then like mill those cards and then only be able to like just summon dragons. I wanted to be like, oh, I have dragons on the field. Okay, I just want to draw cards and then like just sit here and then like push slowly and then just summon dragons when I knew I had game. So that was the idea of that. And then this Miracle Dig, I don't like when people like banish my stuff. People like to do that too often. They have like if I don't have it's that card is like bad and good. It's like the second burial and I already played Dragon Carnation. So it seems like redundant to play like another burial from a different dimension that's even more hard to happen because it'll never like that card if you draw early game is like the most dead card ever and it like forces you to make it live by like summoning dragons on purpose and then throwing them into things. But that's another reason why like you can throw free cards into things. Like dragons are already free. You don't care about anything really. Like you just summon a dragon and then if the summon is fine then you summon like a tuner and then you make a synchro, the dragon goes to grave, and then you throw that dragon synchro into back row because you're not afraid, your monsters are huge, next turn you're going to bring out another dragon. So the Miracle Dig was like, okay, banish dragons, summon more dragons, summon more dragons. Miracle Dig gets all the dragons back. It helps me through the late game when I don't really, like when I'm banishing so much, then it just gets back 3 more cards. That's basically it. Like, it helps versus like the macro and the deep fissure dot decks and the floodgate decks because it's like, well, now I'm forced to make a dragon through all this back row or make a dragon through macro and stuff, and then you have to get back to tuners. And then the thing about Miracle Dig and like playing the burial early and stuff is if you're playing against the floodgate dot decks, then you can get back the you can soul charge back, basically. Like, that's it. And then the electric virus. I was only afraid of, like, the mirror match, because I main Skill Drain, and Skill Drain is, like, not good in the mirror. And I also main Drago, which isn't good in the mirror either. And I wanted to have a card, besides Max C and, like, whatever, to help me in that matchup, because I don't want to lose the mirror match. And I thought that because I was playing the best deck, in quotation marks, in my opinion, that I was going to see another one, and so that's why I threw that electric virus in there. Because you can just steal their dragon, or you can steal their Draco, and yeah. Also, if you play versus Gear, you can steal the X and add the card trigger, which is actually really relevant.
Yeah.
And also really awesome. So.
Alrighty, well, guys, that was your interview with the champ this week. I'd like to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week with the next champ. Later.